What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today we're going to be going over wood grain texture and detailed cockpit. A couple of new weathering techniques that I'm trying out, and this one worked out pretty good for this bomb. And it should tell you how much I actually cared about this project, because I'm actually doing the bomb. A nice detailed engine, and we're going to be going through some extreme metal from AK and seeing how good it actually turned out. So you'll find out how much I like this stuff later. So starting off, we're doing the bomb. Now, I typically don't do bombs. I think airplanes look better without them, but this just looked sweet, and I really liked the colors, that it was a black bomb and not just an olive drab one, and I thought it would give the airplane, since there wasn't a lot to the airplane, a really, really nice look. So I opted to do it, and I'm glad that I did. Even though it took a lot of work sanding it all out and making sure it was a perfectly round edge and doing all the PE parts for it, it was worth it in the end to put it on the airplane. I think it adds good character for it and nice contrast on the underside, because it would just be so boring without it, with the aluminum finish and having nothing underneath there. I am filing all of these things down. I tried to wrap it around the actual the bomb there, but I had to actually cut them and then apply them separately, all with super glue. Off camera, I actually assembled this whole thing backwards, but I mean, you know, that's just kind of how it goes with me. After painting the interior just a khaki brown, I went ahead and did some detail painting just where I thought the metal pieces would be, as I could not find a lot of pictures on the on this aircraft. So I kind of just took the liberty, tried my best, and was hoping to have the weathering like kind of dumb these colors down, because they're really, really, you know, they really stand out, and that actually ended up working in the end. I painted this with the AK black marker, which is literally my favorite product under the sun, and then applied some super glue so I could put the PE parts that actually came in the kit with it. So that was super nice to have that in the kit. This was a really, really fun build, a way different subject than I'm used to. I'm used to pretty standard aircraft that we see in everyday war. So looking up and researching the subject that I found here, the Ki-115, it was really fun to go through and find out neat little things about it. So the interior is almost completely all wood, other than like some things. Even the cockpit and the actual glass parts, like all that was surrounded by wood. So it was really hard to replicate something like that. Usually you just paint it black and then you paint your color over the fuselage. But anyways, we're getting into the wood grain texture here. And what I do is I just basically use black and brown Tamiya wash to start off. And then I used a couple different AK washes to help it along and give it more texture, more grain, and more different colors. Because wood, I work with wood all the time. It has 1,000 different, every piece has like 1,000 different colors. It's all the colors underneath the sun. That's why it's so pretty when it's finished. And now I just do some swirling techniques, swirling motions with a brush, just to give it that unique kind of look. And it wasn't until later. What's up, guys? Does your wife understand what the love of Mustangs is? You have models of them. You have unbuilt models of them. You probably have more unbuilt models of Mustangs than you do of built Mustangs. And now I'm offering you the opportunity to make your wife question your love of Mustangs even more. Buy a Mustang shirt from my shop. It's the best way to make your wife wonder what the hell is wrong with you. Go ahead and pick up sweatshirt, t-shirt, hat, anything you guys like. It helps support the channel. Have a nice one. Let's get back to building. The super trick that I would assign a super trick for this wood grain. It wasn't until later till I actually got the look that I was looking for, and I'll show you in just a minute here. So first, I'm just thinning it out here, thinning all those washes that I put on. I put on like 4 different colors, and I'm just swirling with thinner and trying to just take off as much as possible, leave some stagnant areas just like that, so you can see the plywood actually. It is actually a plywood seat. The plywood kind of looks woodish, and there's like there's streaks and triangle areas where it would actually look like plywood. So I'm just doing that with the brush here, trying to just do different things. And it wasn't until I actually applied this step right here that was the no-brainer. So I have a stiff brush. I dipped it and washed it off a little bit, and then stroked the seat there. with this reddish brown color, and that's what gave me my really, really nice wood grain texture. You see those, that almost came out as like streaks and basically things that you would see in real wood. So I really like this that application. It also pulled back some of the oil as well when it was dried, and that added another effect and another texture to that wood grain to really emphasize that realism. And when I'm done here, this is just a little bit of sand, like having an area where a pilot would be sitting in there a lot. Might have wore off that finished material or whatever. So I just tried to emphasize where somebody would be using it the most. Also on the foot area as well. Next, the kit comes with seat belts, so I applied those with super glue as well and some tweezers, and that always usually works pretty good. It just is a little bit meticulous. You have to just wait for each part to dry. If you got some clamps, use some clamps. Next, I just use a chipping method here to finish and polish everything off just with a couple of chips. I didn't want to go too heavy on this one, as my last Japanese aircraft, you guys had said that I went a little bit too far, but hey, you know, I liked it. I like doing it a lot, but this is the finished result of the interior, and I just think it looks absolutely amazing. The wood grain texture worked out really well, and I would find myself in a seat like this. So I had fun doing it as well. That was probably the funnest part of this aircraft. So now we're back to the bomb, because I did my favorite part, and now we have to do something crappy. Sanded it all down, puttied it, did all the things, and then I spray painted it with some black. And I really like how this bomb turned out, even though I had some problems with painting the PE and just doing some of the things. But chipping it and weathering it was really, really fun. So I tried to do different techniques for chipping, but this is the one I usually find myself at finding the best results, which is just a sponge and me dabbing off the excess just a little bit on a paper towel, only a little bit. You want a lot of paint on the sponge, and always just double check before you put it onto what you're chipping first, and then you can go ahead and chip the area after you know how much of that stuff is on. So now I'm just using these Tamiya. I really want to see the capability of these, because I use these for a lot of different things, but I really wanted to see if I could do some nice streaking with this quote-unquote model makeup that I call it. So I used a stiff brush and just basically brushed down the side of it to make it look like it had been rained on and had some sand on it and had some dirt on it, and just made it seem like some of that sand and crap on it was actually streaking off of it. I typically don't spend a lot of time weathering. I don't really like the process. I'm not a big fan of it, even though it makes the aircraft look so much better. I don't really like doing it. I paint something perfect and do everything, as nice as possible, and then I go ahead and weather it. It irks me to no end, but it's a necessary thing I got to do, because just look at a boring black, white, and it's just so boring without doing the weathering. So this is a critical step in modeling. I think all airplanes should be weathered at least a little bit, just so it doesn't look like a toy. I think that can happen if you don't weather your airplanes enough. But basically, then I use different brushes to sweep away those areas and make it look like it had gotten rained on the bomb rack or whatever, how they would have stored them. I just had fun and tried something new, and it was different, and I really liked the finish of it. So later we'll put that on the airplane. Next, we're gonna do the engine. So the engine was really, really nice. It wasn't too hard to put everything together and paint it and do all this stuff. Some of the wires came a little bit loose, but in Japanese aircraft that tended to happen. If you look at old Japanese aircraft, there isn't a wire that isn't crooked. Like you see the Pratt & Whitneys on our aircraft, everything is tight, right, everything where it should be. But on Japanese aircraft, you look at pictures, there's wires everywhere, and they're just all over the place. So I didn't mind that when I was dry brushing, it came apart and kind of wiggled around and stuff. So I thought it was a happy accident, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what movie's that from. But anyways, I'm doing some different weathering techniques with a dry brush first, just to get that color down. And a lot of Japanese aircraft, I don't know what they used for their engines, but it turned out to be like this golden kind of really dusty and chromy, and I don't know. It's a different type of look for sure compared to our regular Pratt & Whitneys. And for the front piece there, I went with the instructions. Color was to do a medium blue on that, so I just followed the instructions. It almost looks like a Pratt & Whitney engine just because of that color, but yeah, so engine came out really nice. You'll see that later. And next we are going to do the seams. Now the seams were not that great in this this build. I had to do a lot of putty on this, which, you know, I don't mind doing this step. I find it to be kind of relaxing, and it's just annoying to have to do it maybe twice, so there is that. But these areas underneath the fuselage here, where the wings join and everything, they actually did not need any putty, so as long as I can get away from tricky areas like that, I'm a pretty happy guy. I can do seams all day down the middle of the fuselage, but if those are not, you know, if those come out good, then I'm okay with that. Next is to apply all of the little parts that just take forever to do. For some reason, for me, it just takes me longer to do these little parts than a lot of the other stuff. But there is a bunch of sub-assembly in this kit. You must know almost every single part has a two-part piece to it, other than these ailerons, or I guess they'd be ailerons. And yeah, so as you know, I'm not a huge fan of Eduard plastic. I think that it's a little bit too hard sometimes when gluing and too soft when sanding. And I'm not a very picky person, but compared to Tamiya plastic, it's a much different experience in my opinion. I typically don't have any problems sanding away too much or too little. But anyways, there's a huge gap on the bottom, so I'm using some Milliput to solve that problem. I just mix it up in my hand. This stuff is like 2 years old, lasts forever. Even the green parts is fine. It turned out to be perfectly black and everything, so just applied it into a little worm there and mushed it into the seam at the bottom. And surprisingly, I don't use this stuff enough. I haven't been building enough Rebel kits, I guess. Slight slam in the Rebel there, but this was an awesome, easy step to make a nice seam with a really big gap. And I gotta say, I'm liking this Milliput more and more every single time I use it. I've used it to create like a seat cushion. I've used it to do a couple other things, and I really like this stuff. Next, we're just putting everything on this thing before we paint it, because these landing gear are actually going to be the aluminum color, which later gets steel, but yeah, so very finagly, of course. We're dealing with Eduard here, and sometimes their straight pieces are so detailed that they can be a bit finagly. I'm not complaining. I don't mind the finagliness of it. It's just what it is. You're gonna mess with it for a few minutes, and then it's gonna be fine. Also, during the process of me painting and using the landing gear, they did not break, which in certain instances can be very frustrating. Next, I'm going to be applying here is some Alclad black microfiller primer, and next I'm going to be painting this. Since this area is actually wood, all of the glass is held in by wood on this airplane. So when I saw the pictures, I kind of died a little bit. I didn't know how I'd recreate this, but I go ahead and gave it a solid attempt by painting a tan color and middle stone color, trying to make that super streaky, and then I painted the middle stone color over top. Next, I'm going to be applying this Extreme Metal by AK, and I actually really liked it once I used the actual thinner for it. Earlier in a video, if you go back to one of my other videos I used it for, I hated this stuff. It was super pixelated, it looked like glitter, and I didn't know why, and that was because I used the wrong thinner for it. So if you use the Alclad thinner for Extreme Metals, you're going to be all set. Next, I went ahead and taped off certain areas and painted the black part, which was a more fun process than most. But what ended up happening is there was actually some pixelization into the black paint, and it actually gave it a nice texture that I wouldn't mind for grippy areas on wing surfaces. So that's another tip there, that it actually came out with a kind of like a texture almost when I mixed the Vallejo in. Now, I don't think I could probably replicate it twice, but hey, I'll try it because it actually came out with a nice texture. And it didn't ruin this aircraft at all. I mean, it looks like it's black, and when you look in close to it, it's very micro textured. And I kind of liked it. If you know, the Japanese spray guns were a little bit different than other spray guns, and they had some mixed up paint that didn't bond well, and they sprayed it with black. That's kind of where my head was going. Anyways, this AK actually turned out to be really, really shiny and almost too shiny. So I then put in a different, for Japanese aircraft, I don't know if they were polishing their aircraft like some of these Mustangs you see today. I don't think that they were, but I just went ahead with the fact that maybe they weren't, and I painted some panels to kind of dumb that really, really shininess down. I wouldn't mind using the AK on Mustangs. I think it is pretty darn shiny, and I think it gets the job done. I just don't think it's as shiny as Alclad itself if there's a gloss coat. But hey, I didn't do a gloss coat, so that's not really a good test. Next, I spray these areas with paint, as I thought that this decal version was the most interesting. The other one was basically all aluminum, and I wasn't really up for just all aluminum. I think there just needed to be a little hint and touch of something, as I think I'm never going to build this Japanese aircraft again. I don't think I'd build another one. Who knows? Maybe I might pick up a kit and get another decal version in there, but it's just such an odd aircraft. I've never even seen it before last year when Eduard actually came out with the kit. So there's the engine there, and there's the cowling. It fits on really, really nice there. The cowling also was 3 different pieces, so those went together. Next, I'm just doing a little weathering with the prop and just basically putting on that makeup again and streaking it a little bit, but I just really wanted a cloudy effect on the prop, like some weather got to it, and it wasn't all chipped up, since I think it was a wood prop. I basically was just going for a sun damage color. Next, I'm doing some, now here's the deal. So I am doing some weathering here. I did the top first so that, so I could potentially ruin my whole aircraft, since I didn't do a gloss coat, and I'm putting oils on this finish, and it actually ended up peeling it off a little bit. So just be careful of that. I went ahead and did the rest of the aircraft with the same type of color, but I mixed it up with Vallejo paint and some water and did it that way. That's why as soon as it was wet, you wiped it off with a washcloth, and then you got it out of there. Next, we just peel some tape off of our canopy there, and we finished this thing up. Now, this is a really, really fun build, and I really, really appreciated what Eduard did with it, because I think they fixed some of the issues with it beforehand, but it was just so fun to do a different aircraft, once in a while. It's kind of more fun. I really like the shape of this aircraft, and I also like the decal version, and it's a great addition to the Zero collection. Now I'm putting in some feel things. I think they're feel things anyways. I had some oil leaking out of them. But this was a fun step. They actually got the areas got sanded off during the process of doing the seam. And it was just super nice to have the PE parts that came in with the box to just fill in those areas, so you didn't have to really struggle with doing these gas. I think it's gas, anyways. I do some chipping methods on the black areas and the gas areas where I think the most maintenance would have been on this aircraft. And again, the same process. Just do, kind of dab up the sponge a lot, and then dab it off on a paper towel, and then you have the right consistency. Next, I do some scratch marks on the wings just to kind of give it a different texture, a different weathering technique, as I didn't put a gloss coat on. I didn't do any bonding primers or anything like that before the green, so it really comes off pretty easily, the Vallejo paint. So I just rub my finger around with a little bit of water and just scrape it off in different areas, and that's actually a pretty decent weathering technique if you didn't put a gloss coat on. Next, I do the areas with a natural look for the black areas, and do some weathering with some oil streaks. But now we're getting into the exhaust, and I typically go towards this process, as the modeling makeup I think is the most realistic thing that I can do personally as a modeler, and I think it looks the best. It also gives it the best sheen in my opinion, and I really can't duplicate this with an airbrush. I can get close, but it's stressful. It's not fun, you know, so why have no fun when you can get the same or better result and have fun and not be worried about ruining their whole aircraft with putting some paint on, especially with the aluminum finish and the fact that there's a multiple different colors going on, and that, you know, all the different panels are different colors. So I just opted for this. It's a super easy way to do it, and why wouldn't you? You know, it looks nice in the end. You can rub it out and kind of make it blend a little bit more than I did there, but next you just go through with the white, and then you get that white kind of gassy streak, and it just looks legit at the end of the day. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate every single viewer. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. Definitely light me up and become a member just to support the channel. Even just watching the video all the way through, you support the channel, so I appreciate you guys so much. Enjoy these last photos, and also get back to building. This is going to be a great summer 2026. Let's go. Right into the first set. Price tags are a little tough on these, I won't lie. The ATRT Attack, which is $45.